Question for you today. Does God need us? Does he need you? Does he need me? What do you think? Nope. God doesn't need us. I mean, he created the whole universe. So why does he need me? He doesn't. In fact, Paul addresses this in Acts when he says, it's Acts 17:24-25. He is the God who made the world and everything in it. Since he is Lord of heaven and earth, he doesn't live in man-made temples, and human hands cannot serve his needs, for he has no needs. He himself gives life and breath to everything, and he satisfies every need there is. So he does not need us. But the next question I have for you is, does God want us? Does God want you? Does God want me? And yes, he absolutely does. This whole scripture is essentially some call it a love story to us. It's all written about the things that he's about God. They point to Jesus and the great sacrifice that he made for us on the cross. And so, does God want us? He absolutely does. 1 Peter 2 says, and this is verse 9, but you are not like that. You are a chosen people. So this is Peter speaking. You are a kingdom of priests, God's holy nation, his very own possessions. This is so you can show others the goodness of God, for he called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. You are a chosen people, but you're chosen for a reason. He wants you to show others the goodness of God. So there's a purpose. What does this have anything to do with Esther? Because we've been talking about Esther. Is this just a random video? No, it's not. What does Esther have to do with God's chosen people? Have y'all heard that before? God's chosen people? Who's God's chosen people? The Israelites. And so what happens in the New Testament is that Jesus dies and that promise becomes for everyone. But we've got to get to Jesus, and Esther is a part of that. So in this great story that God calls us into, he doesn't need us, but he wants us. And so he uses us in his story. And so we see Esther being used by God to protect his chosen people, which are the Jews. And this is where we get this line that Mordecai, Esther's uncle, speaks to Esther. And he goes, if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will come for the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house will perish. And who knows that you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this. So basically, Mordecai is telling Esther, God's got a plan, and he's going to use whatever he needs to do to take care of this problem. You can either be a part of it, or you can probably die. That's what he's saying. And so he is issuing a challenge to Esther and saying, God has placed you right here for this time, for such a time as this. He has chosen you to be the one. Will you accept that challenge? And Esther has to do this really hard thing. It's a big deal. We're going to talk about it more next week. This, for such a time as this, is such a big phrase that's used often in Esther's story. But I want to flip it around and ask you, what hard thing has God asked you to do? In your own personal life, whether you are 12 or 22 or 52, I don't care how old you are. God has called us all to do something. And some things might seem really easy, I don't know, speaking to your neighbor. Or it could be a little bit harder, like he asked for Esther to go in and save a nation. The kind of the question where we're at is, are you going to do that hard thing? Whatever the hard thing is in your life, are you going to do that hard thing? And that's my question. Are you going to be like Esther and say, yes, this is my time. I am going to do this. Or are you just going to cower and sit back in your safe little world and possibly lose everything? What are you going to decide today? I hope and pray that it's going to be standing out, stepping forward, and being bold for Jesus today. Let me know, what is the hard thing? How can I pray for you? I'd love to pray for you. So let me know what hard things are in your life. What are you doing? So we can stand before the Father together.